Okay, so I'm going to zap back here for 1 second into your intro real quick and then walk you through what your body paragraphs need to look like. So to remind you, your intro has your attention getter. You have a buffer that moves the attention getter to the thesis. Then you have a separate preview sentence about each of your body paragraphs. So I've got one about Crooks, one about Curly's wife, and one about Lenny. And again, I color coded all of this to make it very simple for you to not copy from, but use as a reference. Okay. So again, you need to make sure in your intro you have three separate preview sentences and then end with a transition that leads us into the first body paragraph. Okay. So again, if you have three preview sentences, here's your first preview sentence. Crooks was a lonely stable buck who was unable to reach his goal of owning a farm because of the color of his skin. Your first body paragraph then is going to be about Crooks. So you're going to need to, when you get to your first body paragraph, restate something about Crooks as a topic sentence. A topic sentence. You have to have a topic sentence at the start of your first body paragraph. Then you'll look through your quotes that you've taken before you write and decide, you know what, here's what I want to use from these quotes as support, and then lead us into that first quote, and then elaborate. And remember, your elaboration needs to be several sentences. So again, here's my preview sentences here. One about Crooks, one about Curly, one about Lenny from my intro. So now here I go to my first body paragraph. So in your first body paragraph, start by restating your preview in a new way. It's called a topic sentence. From the preview sentence, I have Crooks was a lonely stable buck who was unable to reach his goal of owning a farm because of the color of his skin. Do not copy and write the same thing from your preview sentence into your topic sentence for your body paragraph. Restate it in a new way. Again, restate it. So this is from my intro. Now let's look here in purple. I changed it. Crooks was an African American stable buck that had high hopes of owning property, yet was held back from his dream due to the extreme racism in the time that he lived. So I took that sentence from my preview from my introduction and restated it as a topic sentence. Then you need to lead us to your first quote. Do not jump right into a quote. Crooks wanted a farm just as George and Lenny did. True. Okay, so you're giving us some background. Don't retell the story. Do not go back and retell all the story. Think about what your quote is about that you're going to write about and lead us towards that quote and how it supports that Crooks represents the theme of the inability to achieve the American dream or whatever theme you have. So again, Crooks wanted a farm just as George and Lenny did, focusing on their American dream, not retelling the story. He was lonely as well and was looking for companionship. At one point in the story, Lenny walks into Crooks's room, not realizing that it was a violation of Jim Crow laws, laws back then that were prejudiced that said black and white people couldn't be together during this time. Crooks knew it was wrong, and then here's my quote from the novel. Crooks scowled, but Lenny's disarming smile defeated him. Come on in and sit a while, Crooks said. As long as you won't get out and leave me alone, you might as well sit down. So I took a quote that had something to do with him being lonely, something to do with the American dream, whatever your topic is, you want to focus on having quotes that support how the character shows that. And I led myself with first my topic sentence, then I gave a little bit of a buffer, a lead in towards my quote about how he wanted a farm. And then I gave just a little bit of background about how he walked into Crook's room and didn't know it was wrong to do, according to Jim Crow laws. And then I led into the quote. You have to lead into the quote. Never start a sentence with quotation marks. You'd have to have something like, in the one part of the story when Crooks did this, while Crooks was walking down the street, he said, or Crooks knew it was wrong and Crooks scowled, but Lenny's disarming smile defeated him. I led into the quote. You have to have a quote introduction, okay, whatever that may be. And then you have to cite the page number at the very end here. Okay, so I have my quote about Crooks saying, as long as you won't get out and leave me alone, you might as well sit down. Then you have to have elaboration. This should be at least 2 to 3 sentences minimum. I only put a little bit because I don't want you to steal from what I have, but here's an example. These actions from Crooks show that he's in need of a friend and will even violate the law. See how I tie my elaboration back to how I led into the quote. He will even violate the law and risk getting killed to have one. And then you have to include more of your own voice. And this also shows this also shows that. Again, you'll need to put a quote in, elaborate, and then lead us, just like I did here, into your next quote, and then elaborate again. You should have 5 quotes in each body paragraph, and then 5 examples of really strong elaboration. This is what your body paragraph will look like then. Crooks was an African American stable buck that had high hopes of owning property. He was held back from his dream due to racism in the time that he lived. He wanted to farm just as George and Lenny did. He was lonely as well and was looking for companionship. At one point in the story, Lenny walks into Crooks's room not realizing it was a violation of Jim Crow law. Crooks scowled, but Lenny's disarming smile defeated him. "Come on in and sit a while," Crooks said. "As long as you won't get out and leave me alone, and sit down." So again, I led into the quote, and then I have the quote. Here's my explanation. These actions from Crook show that he's in need of a friend and will even violate Jim Crow law to risk getting killed to have one. He's reminded many times that he's not really welcome at the bunkhouse and is even kept in a separate building due to his prejudice. That's elaboration. This greatly displays the fact that he will never really be able to achieve his dream in the culture of the 1930s. That's all my explanation just for that one quote. Now let's lead into the next quote. At one point, he is again reminded how hateful everyone is to African Americans when Curly's wife says, quote, so I led into the quote, I have all that explanation. At one point, he's reminded of how he's not wanted, and Curly's wife says, well, you keep your place there, blank, and again, edit out any inappropriate words that way. I could get you strung up on a tree so easy it ain't funny, and cite your page number. Now again, elaborate. This is a cruel reminder that any dream Crooks might have would be quickly extinguished. Use those strong words because of Jim Crow law, prejudice, and hate. Ironically, women were kept from many of the same freedoms that African Americans were kept from, such as voting. Curly's wife, who was using prejudice against Crooks, was a victim of prejudice as well and never was able to attain her dream. What I did here at the end is I just pretended that I had 5 quotes. So I just put 2. You should have 5. And then I showed you, well, when you get to the end of your body paragraph, now lead from Crooks into your next character, which would be Curly's wife. So I talked about how she was also kept back because of prejudice. So please lead in with a transition like that where you're talking about the next character, and lead in with something about them and whatever your theme is. Mine's about prejudice or whatever, so keep that in mind. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. Please rewatch this video a couple times if you need to make sure that this makes sense to you. Again, be proactive. Don't wait until you make a bunch of mistakes and then go back and try and fix them. Watch the video several times, or my other 2 videos several times, to make sure that your essay is awesome. Okay, thank you.